There's a question most of us stopped asking a long time ago. Not because we figured it out, but because somewhere along the way, we got too distracted to even remember it existed. Am I actually living or just existing in a loop someone else designed for me? Think about it. The second you wake up, your attention's already under attack. Notifications, news alerts, emails, deadlines, everything demands a piece of you before you've even had your first sip of coffee. And the day? It doesn't wait. It rushes forward like a train you never meant to board. But there you are, gripping the rails, pretending you're in control, pretending you're the one driving it. We were sold this dream, right? That if we studied hard, worked harder, bought the right things, climbed the right ladders, we'd eventually reach this magical place called happiness. That technology would make us freer. That being constantly connected would make us feel less alone. That more convenience would mean more peace. But somewhere along the line, cracks started to show. The more you bought, the more empty you felt. The more you achieved, the further peace seemed to drift. You've got access to everything now: information, entertainment, people, and yet somehow you still feel starved for something you can't quite maim. That emptiness, it's not random.
You've been taught to believe that progress means salvation, that every new update, every new version, every new app is getting you closer to being whole. But nobody warned you that the same things making life easier might also be quietly hollowing you out. We now live in a world where silence feels weird, where stillness makes people uncomfortable, where your worth is measured in followers, likes, productivity, and hustle. You're constantly pushed to perform, to optimize, to consume. Because if you ever stop, even for a second, you might actually remember something dangerous, that you are more than a machine. And that memory? It's a threat to a system that depends on you forgetting who you are. See, that discomfort you keep trying to drown with scrolling, shopping, streaming, it's not your enemy. It's actually your soul trying to resist a role it never agreed to play. It's a warning sign, a signal that your inner world is being smothered by noise, pressure, and expectations that were never truly yours. Every scroll, every purchase, every new thing you chase, it was all designed to keep that voice inside you quiet. Because if you ever truly heard it, you'd start asking uncomfortable questions. You'd stop running. You'd start waking up. There's a kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. Not physical tiredness, but a spiritual kind of fatigue. It's what happens when you're living a life that doesn't actually belong to you. But here's the thing. Most people never slow down long enough to even notice it. They just keep moving, faster and faster, chasing a version of happiness that was marketed to them like a product. But let me tell you something. Speed doesn't equal clarity. Acceleration isn't the same as purpose, and you can only outrun yourself for so long. So let me ask you a real question, one you probably haven't asked yourself in years. If nobody was watching, if nobody was there to clap for you or criticize you, what would you actually do with your life? Not what's expected, not what sounds impressive, but what feels real to you. If that question stings a little, good. That sting, that's the beginning of truth. And maybe, just maybe, the life you've been living hasn't been yours at all. Here's where it gets even trickier. Modern life isn't just distracting you, it's actively convincing you that the distraction is the point. It rewards you for being busy, not thoughtful. It applauds your output, not your presence. It tells you that looking successful matters more than feeling whole. The game isn't designed for you to wake up. It's designed for you to keep playing along. Smile for the camera. Hit the next goal. Chase the next high. Post it all online, like some kind of proof that you're doing life right. But deep down, you know something's off. When the music stops, when your phone finally dies, when you're alone in a quiet room, there's this low, gnawing question. Why do I feel so empty, even when I've done everything right? That's not failure. That's the paradox. We live in a time where we have more than ever, more tools, more choices, more information, and yet somehow we feel less alive than ever. We were told that comfort would bring us fulfillment, that if we just earned a bit more, upgraded that one last thing, hit that next milestone, we'd finally get rid of this weird ache inside. But all that time, we weren't curing it. We were just numbing it. That hunger you feel, it's not for another gadget. It's for something real. Something that can't be bought, posted, or optimized. It's for meaning, purpose, connection. The kind that doesn't need an audience to matter. But here's the uncomfortable part. A life like that, the kind that feels real in your bones, doesn't come from running faster. It doesn't come from doing more or being better. It comes from stopping. Stopping completely. Not to escape the world, but to finally engage with it on your own terms. That's where the shift begins. Not in rebellion, but in resistance. It starts when you begin to question everything you were told you had to be. When you stop chasing a life that fits into a feed and start creating a life that fits into your soul. Because if you don't pause and choose your direction, someone else will choose it for you. And trust me, that someone else doesn't care about your peace. It only cares that you keep moving, keep spending, keep scrolling, keep functioning. But here's the most radical thing you can do today. Choose not to perform. To walk away from the pressure, the spotlight, the version of yourself you've been rehearsing for so long. That version that always knows the right thing to say, the right angle for the selfie, the perfect caption for the moment. You can let it go. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first, like you're standing there with no mask, no script, in front of a world that only applauds perfection. But then, that discomfort shifts. It becomes clarity. It becomes courage. It becomes space for your true self to breathe again. Think about how many years you've spent becoming someone the world would accept. Now, maybe it's time to become someone you can actually live with. Not the version of you who's always on, always producing, always chasing, but the version who knows how to sit with stillness, who can feel joy without documenting it, who listens when your soul whispers instead of waiting until it has to scream. Because that whisper, that's where your real life begins. And once you start hearing it, really hearing it, everything starts to change. You begin to see the patterns for what they are. Not truths, just traps. The urgency, the fear of missing out, the highlight reels flashing across your screen. They're not reflections of life. They're mechanisms designed to keep you distracted from yours. You start noticing how easily you've handed over your worth to jobs, to numbers, to strangers on the internet. You realize how much of your energy, your soul, has been spent on things that never loved you back. And here's the real kicker. Nothing they gave you, no title, no upgrade, no number on a screen, was ever meant to truly fill you. It was meant to keep you chasing. Because as long as you're chasing, you're predictable. And as long as you're predictable, you won't stop. You won't ask the most dangerous question of all. What if I already have everything I need? Not in the material sense, but in a much deeper, quieter way. What if the real treasure isn't out there waiting for you to earn it, but in here, waiting for you to notice it? See, freedom was never really about doing whatever you want, whenever you want. That's not freedom. That's chaos. Real freedom, the kind that changes you, is living a life that doesn't require you to abandon yourself just to survive. But that kind of freedom, it's not comfortable. It's not easy. It doesn't come from blaming the system or rejecting modern life entirely. It comes from owning your responsibility. It asks you to stop pointing fingers and start reclaiming your time, not just as a block of hours on a calendar, but as something sacred. Your life, minute by minute, breath by breath. That's the real currency. Not money, not followers, not likes, but presence. Your ability to fully inhabit your own existence.
Because here's the truth. The system can take almost anything from you, but it can't steal what you fiercely choose to guard. Your awareness, your intention, your alignment. So what do you do now? You pause. You reflect. You begin the slow, quiet, honest work of becoming real again. You make space for silence. You let yourself feel what you've been numbing. You reconnect with your breath, your body, with people, not through screens, but through presence. You forgive yourself for the years you spent asleep, because you weren't lazy, you weren't broken, you were simply lost in a world designed to keep you that way. But now, you see the map for what it is, a distraction, and instead of following it blindly, you reach for something more powerful, a compass.
One that's been inside you this whole time, maybe buried, maybe rusty, but still yours. And maybe that's the point. Not to throw away modern life, not to live in a cave or delete all your accounts, but to live with your eyes open, to use the tools without being ruled by them, to remember that the purpose of life isn't to be efficient, it's to be alive, not to impress, but to feel, not to win, but to exist fully, honestly, even imperfectly. Because in the end, the life that matters isn't the one that gets the most attention, it's the one that feels the most true. So before you move on, before you check another box, refresh another feed, chase another goal, ask yourself this: am I living my life or just playing a part I didn't even write? If that question makes you uneasy, good. That means there's still time. Time to rewrite the story. Time to slow down, to listen deeper, to step off the stage. Because the moment you stop performing, that's the moment you finally start to live.